Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. This is episode 14 of our Look Inside series, and we are going, well, to my neck of the woods. Not when this will be released and aired, but currently where I am sitting, about 35 minutes north of Lucas Oil Stadium, heading to Indianapolis to talk about the Indianapolis Colts. This is a team, guys. This is a team. They've been a team for the last 2 seasons under Shane Steichen. They have had Anthony Richardson as their quarterback for the last 2 seasons. I can't promise you they have Anthony Richardson to start the season this year. We have a whole lot to discuss. This might be another team where it is buyer beware except for one player. Josh and I are here to break it down. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy, episode 14, Indianapolis Colts. Just Josh and I once again. Ryan's on vacation. Oh, this guy, not dedicated. 8-9. This team was 8-9. And when I say this team,
I'll be honest, I don't even know how they won 8 games.
That's what I'm saying. And I mean this team because starter-wise, the tight end's the only different thing. They're pretty much the exact same team.
Yep.
So I don't know what to make of this team. They have Shane Steichen back again, back-to-back episodes where they have offensive coach also running his offense. 8-9. The first game of the season last year, I think, just perfectly encapsulates what this team is, because we saw 2 60-yard ropes by Anthony Richardson. And I mean, some of the best throws you could argue last season.
Yeah.
And I am fully okay with admitting that. The other 30 passes he had that game, he completed 2 of them. I'm not kidding. He was 4 for 27 that game. He was 4 for 27 with like 150 yards passing. First off, that's insane efficiency from a horse shit completion percentage, but also yards per throw. Like, what are we doing? We say this with Justin Fields, Fields is an insane rushing athlete, and you look at him and he makes about 10 throws a game where you're like, damn, he could throw the football. But then the other 30 are, wow, he can't throw the football. It's the same thing with Anthony Richardson, but there's only 2 of those every game.
Yeah.
He is an insane athlete. One of the best athletes in the league. He is 6'6", absolute refrigerator, could run over anybody from any era of football. He might get hurt, but he can run over any of them.
Well, and he's already dealing with a shoulder injury.
Because he doesn't take care of his body. And that's something where the comparison he should have had coming out, and I don't know, I don't remember hearing enough of a comparison to this. It should have been heavy Cam Newton. Like
Cam Newton.
I mean, for as big as Cam Newton was, he's not Anthony Richardson's size. Like, Cam Newton was 6'6", I think, like 240.
Richardson's 6'5", 245.
6'5", 245. I think Richardson's 6'6", pushing 260.
6'4", 244 on Pro Football Reference.
That is
roughly
incorrect.
The same size.
There is no way. I will take the weight. Anthony Richardson is taller than Cam Newton. There's no way. Regardless, they were both, like, legitimately, they were both 1-year starters. Like, that's who they were. They didn't have a lot of college experience, and they were mostly known for, like, running the football.
Yeah, the difference was Cam Newton was actually a good college quarterback.
Cam was a good college quarterback, but they were both 1-year starters. And Anthony Richardson was getting more comparisons to other guys that wasn't matched up like that. And for as bad as Cam Newton was later on in his career throwing the football, he had a laser beam of an arm for most.
I was going to say, he threw 4,000 yards his rookie season. Like nobody saw that coming based on his player profile.
And his decline came from the shoulder surgery he had to have in 2018 on his throwing shoulder. But before that, he had a laser beam of an arm. And it wasn't just a laser like A-Rich has. It's a laser beam that's accurate. So that's the scary part with this offense. And again, this is the Underdog ADP. And we use Underdog because they're good friends of ours. Use promo code WOFF at, I was going to say checkout. That ain't right. When you make your deposit, which is, I guess, technically checkout, but get a free pick first time deposit up to $1,000. I wouldn't put a lot of money on the Colts, but if you're feeling frisky, you're going to get free money when you deposit into Underdog using our promo code WOFF. Here is your projected starting offense. Anthony Richardson is quarterback 30. Daniel Jones is quarterback 29. People think Daniel Jones is going to be the starter, and I'm not here to tell you that I disagree with that.
Yeah, it's definitely, and this is kind of, what we've been discussing in some of these is that, over the summer, your ADP is going to continually fluctuate. For a while, Anthony Richardson was the projected starter. He was going a little bit higher. Then, of course, the shoulder injury comes out again, and now it's like, man, maybe Daniel Jones is going to be the starter. Like, we can't keep betting that Anthony Richardson is going to, be this unicorn that we thought he would be, like the same way that people thought that Kyle Pitts would be this unicorn. He just hasn't delivered. This is Anthony Richardson's story. This is his make or break season. This is why they went out and got Daniel Jones. If you cannot beat Daniel Jones out for the starting quarterback job, you're probably not going to be an NFL starting quarterback.
These Florida unicorns really don't pan out here in the NFL. RB1, Jonathan Taylor, he's the RB8 right now. Khalil Herbert, his projected backup, RB90. But DJ Giddens, RB59, getting drafted higher. Rookie fever, baby. The wide receiver 1 is Michael Pittman, getting drafted at wide receiver 51. The guy who people like more.
This is the one I don't understand.
Josh Downs at wide receiver 48.
Yeah, this is what I don't understand.
We'll break down the receivers. Actually, we'll break down all the pass catchers. And guess what? It doesn't really stem about the pass catchers. It stems from the quarterbacks. Alec Pierce is wide receiver 74, and Adonai Mitchell, wide receiver 86, the tight end. It's tight end 1, Tyler Warren. He's the tight end 10. He's dropped a few spots. The rookie fever's kind of cooled off here at the tight end position. But Tyler Warren has dropped off to tight end 10. He was the 14th overall pick in this year's NFL draft. Second tight end to go after Colston Loveland at 10 to the Bears. Overall thoughts and expectations for this offense. It can't be good.
No, definitely not good. But I don't know. My first thought when I look at this Colts team, are we sure that Shane Steichen is the head coach by the end of this season? Like, he came in 2 years ago. They spent the 4th overall pick on Anthony Richardson. And you know how this goes. When the quarterback that the head coach handpicked flames out, the quarterback or the head coach gets blamed.
You're not wrong.
I mean, if Anthony Richardson doesn't win this job and doesn't show some life as a quarterback this year, I honestly don't think that Shane Steichen lasts the full season, which means he's probably going to be back in Philadelphia in some way, shape, or form in the coming seasons. So there's that. That's my first thought. Second thought is, at the end of the day, this is a run-first offense. They're not going to throw the football a ton. They're going to hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor, and a healthy Jonathan Taylor should very well be a top 5 running back. The only problem is Shane Steichen's offense does not throw to the running back position. So he has a very limited ceiling at that point. But we've seen from other running backs, just look at Derrick Henry last year. If you run for a lot of yards and you score a lot of touchdowns, you don't need a high receiving floor. Plain and simple.
It don't matter.
And Jonathan Taylor has been the overall wide receiver 1, rushing for over 1,800 yards and 18 touchdowns. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Jonathan Taylor finishes as a top 5 running back. So you can make an argument that RB8 is a pretty good value for him. But outside of the running game, it's taking deep shots. It's 9 routes with Alec Pierce and with Adonai Mitchell. Yep, that's what it is. And then you have your chain movers with Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. Michael Pittman's about an 11 yards per reception guy. He's a possession guy, doesn't do a whole lot else. He has the ability to get down the field. They just don't really use him that way. And for a guy that fought through a back injury last year, somehow only missed 1 game, which is pretty remarkable. But the biggest wild card here is Tyler Warren, because Shane Steichen, even when you go back to Philly, he used the tight end, but it wasn't a focal point of the offense. And by focal point, I mean he wasn't the first or second option in the passing game. And they had a really good one in Dallas Goedert there. But the moment they brought in A.J. Brown, it became A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. And Dallas Goedert's games were if one of those guys had a bad matchup or if they missed time, right? That's when we saw peak Dallas Goedert. So I'm curious if that's going to be the same way here in Indy, or if they said, we spent a first-round pick on Tyler Warren, so now he's the focal point, which means one of these wide receivers then ultimately takes a step back. And if that's the case, it might be Michael Pittman, because they're kind of built the same way. They're big guys, possession guys, but you can move Tyler Warren around to create mismatches, whereas you can't really do that with Michael Pittman.
I'm happy I found this note, because we do want to talk Tyler Warren. And I believe I brought this up on our tight end show, because I remember writing this down. And at that point in time, Tyler Warren was pretty high on the ADP list, and he was definitely a trap that we had mentioned inside that top 10. The numbers for the Indianapolis Colts tight ends last year, if you were to combine them all, here's what they would have been as a tight end. 39 catches. 39. That's about two and a third catch per game. 467 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah,
that would be good.
They accounted for just about 13% of the total receiving yards.
That would account for 97.7 fantasy points, which would put Tyler Warren, if he were to do this, at tight end 30 based off of last year's point totals. Now, again, that is with Mo Alley Cox. That is with Kylan Granson. Tyler Warren, Tyler Warren is a far better player, far better athlete, all of these things. The issue is that he doesn't have somebody that can get him the football. And we're assuming A-Rich is the starter. But even if it's Daniel Jones, Daniel Jones has shown he's been able to get the football to a receiver. Mm-hmm. He himself hasn't really shown a liking to throwing the football to the tight end unless it is an emergency situation.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants didn't really have any good tight ends, though, either.
And yes.
But I mean, they did bring in Darren Waller to be that big piece for him.
And then he, broke up with Kelsey Plum and then retired.
Yeah.
But the point being there is Daniel Jones was never conditioned to throw to a tight end.
No.
Right? I mean, you look at guys like Jimmy Garoppolo and Brissett, and we would feel confident wherever they went, we knew they were going to look at a tight end because they study behind Tom Brady. They were there with Gronkowski. It's just natural. You go into that offense, you're conditioned. Hey, look at your tight end because it's a mismatch. Yep. He's never been conditioned to do that. This offense is a running gun offense. And the gun tends to never point towards the tight end. It always points towards your field stretchers, which is why we saw Alec Pierce have just an insane week 1 last year.
Yep.
So
I think the biggest thing with this offense as a whole, and Joe, you already laid out the stats where how they infrequently targeted the tight end position in 2024. But if you go to 2023, they targeted the tight end position about 22% of the time. So, and that was spread out between, Granson and Mo Alley Cox and, the plethora of tight end options that they had. Yeah. But they didn't really have one elite option, right? So if you're able to take that compass and consolidate it into one talented option, I think you can formulate a top 15 tight end. Potentially, right? Now, you go back to 2023 when they targeted the tight end position 22% of the time. Their tight end 1 had 50 targets. Tight end 2 had a little over 30. I'm not saying that Tyler Warren's going to see 80 targets, but I think you're looking at a little bit closer to what that ceiling might look like, right? And over the last 2 years in college, he did score 15 touchdowns. And 7 of those were in 2023 when he shared the tight end room with Theo Johnson. So, you know, if that translates to the NFL and that's somebody that can score touchdowns, that's going to make this offense better because you know that Jonathan Taylor is going to score a ton of touchdowns. But something that we really haven't seen from Daniel Jones is an ability to score touchdowns. He hasn't had anything more than 15 touchdown passes in a season since his rookie season. You could make the argument that this might be the best collection of weapons that he's truly ever had. I say argument because, again, he did start last season with Malik Neighbors, even if he didn't play the full season. He had Saquon Barkley for a large amount of his time. But if you take that it's, a wash, quote unquote, with Saquon and Jonathan Taylor, now you compare all the other pieces. Like Darius Slayton is your wide receiver 1. Like
he's never had an electric slot receiver like Josh Downs can compete. He's never had like Darius Slayton's a deep threat, but
that's Alec Pierce.
I'd say Alec Pierce and Adonai Mitchell both have the speed that are probably faster than him.
Yep.
And he's never had a tight end.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is arguably the best collection that Daniel Jones has ever had. It's certainly the best collection that Anthony Richardson has ever had, right? But we know what Anthony Richardson is at this point. He can't throw the football, plain and simple. 47.7% completion percentage last year. I don't care whether you're a second-year starter. You should not be employed by an NFL team if you can't complete at minimum 55% of your passes. And truly, it shouldn't be anything less than 60.
Where does that rank all time over a season?
Like,
it's gotta be dead last. It has to be.
Gotta be. So, but again, you fit somebody like Tyler Warren, who, again, they used him a lot as the focal point of that Penn State offense last year because they didn't have a ton of other options. They moved him around a lot, over 1,200 receiving yards. They used him out of the backfield. They used him in the Wildcat. And a lot of people instantly think, oh, you know what? Brock Bowers did a lot of similar things. Need I remind you, when Brock Bowers came in and played last year with the Raiders, how many rush attempts did he have last year?
They have like 2, I think.
I think he had 3.
Yeah, it was not a lot.
Just because they utilized him that way in college doesn't mean they're going to do that in the pros.
Yeah.
So, like, the people that think, oh, the rushing upside, that's what you're getting from the tight end. No, don't believe that for 1 second until it's actually shown to you that the NFL offense wants to do that. Because NFL offenses rarely say, this is what a tight end can do. I'm going to use him that way. Jonnu Smith, Chig Okonkwo, extremely athletic tight ends. They're not featured very heavily in the running game. They might have a random rush attempt here and there. They might top out at like 5 rush attempts on a season. That's not going to be Tyler Warren's game. So please do not buy into that narrative that Tyler Warren is going to separate himself from the tight end pack because he's going to have 20 plus rush attempts. This isn't a Deebo Samuel situation. Okay. You're banking on the fact that he has the potential to be either the number 1 or number 2 target earner on this offense. And with Josh Downs and Michael Pittman in front of him, that upside truly is not there unless the script absolutely flips in an effort for Steichen to try to retain his job or he loses his job, plain and simple. And that's why I think that the tight end 10 is still too high when you're considering Tyler Warren in fantasy drafts.
Way too high. Not even close. I do want to go back to that completion percentage number.
Oh, you found it?
Because that's hilarious. So career completion percentage for Anthony Richardson is just over 50% at 50.6. That would put him all time in terms of career completion percentage. This is according to Pro Football Reference amongst 215 eligible players. Richardson is not technically eligible yet because he hasn't played enough years. But if we're putting him on this list, Anthony Richardson would rank 197th, tied with Bill Nelson. Played from 1963 to 1972. The worst completion percentage of all time, career-wise, was Cotton Davidson with a 43.9 completion percentage. He played from 1954 to 1968. In case you're wondering, yes, he did play for the Baltimore Colts. He was the 5th overall pick for the Baltimore Colts. You can't write this, folks. You can't write that.
I mean, that was also before teams truly embraced throwing the football. So you got a lot of very inaccurate passers in that era of football.
You haven't let me let me get to my point yet. This guy, listen, this guy was slinging the rock in 1960. He had 379 pass attempts in 1960 for DTX. Who the hell is that Dallas's? The Dallas Texans. Holy hell. He played for the Dallas Texans, the Oakland Raiders, and the Baltimore Colts. Absolute legend. Worst completion percentage in NFL history over a career. But in terms of lowest in a season, that goes to Gary Morangi with a 35.3% completion percentage. He played for the Bills in 1976. He had 232 pass attempts. He completed 82 of them. It's so bad.
That's even in an era when they were throwing the football.
Kind of. But my point, the whole point with this is I can only see 1 through 25. I have to unlock 2 times data by downloading StatMuse and whatever. At 25 is Marlon Briscoe. Probably know the name. African-American quarterback. Doug Williams helped pave the way for Marlon Briscoe. All these different players. 41.5% completion percentage in 1968. The point with this is, were they a little less accurate back in the day? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they weren't as good. The other point being, they didn't throw that much back then. Anthony Richardson is throwing roughly the same. Like, a lot of these guys actually have more pass attempts than Anthony Richardson. But Anthony Richardson is completing like a quarterback would in the 60s.
Yeah. So what you're saying is Richardson's a man at a time.
That's a problem. That's a problem. Okay? Because when you're in the same sentence as, one moment, as, oh my God, could you go any slower? As USC legend Bill Nelson, William Keith Nelson, if you will, 6 foot, 195 pounds. This guy was a fucking twig throwing the football. Played for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. Dog. Legend. 50.6% completion percentage. And that guy had more pass attempts than Anthony Richardson, fun fact, in a season. So when we tell you we don't like Tyler Warren, when we tell you we don't like Michael Pittman, we don't like Josh Downs, it's not the player. It's the guy throwing him the football. And if it is
best case scenario for this offense is Daniel Jones.
It is. Now, I'm not going to agree with that from the tight end standpoint, but from a receiver standpoint, if you want to invest in Josh Downs and Michael Pittman, you better be praying to whatever God you believe in that Daniel Jones is your starter come day one. And I can guarantee you God's going to be a little confused because the Giants fans were just praying him away. And now the Colts fans are praying him to start. So it's going to be a little concerning for the big man upstairs.
Down bad.
You know your franchise is down bad when you are praying for Daniel Jones to be your starter. That is true. So yeah, Pittman and Warren it's not the guy. It's just the situation he's in. And
honestly, though, regardless of that, wide receiver 51 for Pittman just feels way too low. I mean, this is a guy that's had at least 106 targets in 4 straight seasons. And the best part about this, and again, this is for all you math nerds out there, and I said the exact same thing heading into last year when it came to Deebo Samuel. When Deebo is up, he comes down. That's what he did last year. He came down. Michael Pittman's career, 1,000 yards, under 1,000. 1,000 yards last year, under 1,000. So where are we at this year? Over 1,000. Plain and simple. He's never had more than 6 receiving touchdowns in a season. In fact, the last 3 years, he's been at 4, 4, and 3. He's perpetually gotten worse. So he is a straight volume receiver. It's not really anything special. So I guess I get the fact that when you're at this point, you're kind of drafting guys for upside purposes, and maybe you just don't see that with Pittman. But Pittman has always been a pretty consistent wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 that is going to get you, 10, 11, maybe 12 points here and there. He'll have a spike week every once in a while. Like, he's that consistent fixture in a lineup. And that's not a bad thing when you're playing in season-long leagues. That becomes that sort of set it and forget it, and then you can chase points in other positions. But again, to see the slot receiver in the same lineup who has never outplayed Michael Pittman being drafted ahead of him, that is a legitimate problem. Like, that tells me that you think that either Alec Pierce or Adonai Mitchell are suddenly going to burst out of this lineup and overtake Pittman. And I don't know how you watch either of those two guys play and think that they are better than what Michael Pittman gives you on a day-to-day, on a week-to-week basis.
I will say, looking back on
sense.
it, AD Mitchell did kind of have a Roma Dunze feel where the guy was open and they couldn't complete a pass to him. So AD can get open. I am not saying he should be over Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman is a very good receiver.
The thing is, AD Mitchell plays the same position as Alec Pierce. He is being held back by Alec Pierce.
Agreed.
And Alec
Racial
Pierce
discrimination
is gone after this year because he's going to be a free agent. He's going to get a $12 million a year contract because that's what teams pay.
That's what
wide
happens.
receiver 3s now, right? So AD Mitchell's primed to take that wide receiver 3 spot in this offense. How soon that happens is up for debate. But Pittman and Downs are pretty well solidified as the 1 and 2 here. So, like, that's what I'm saying. I just don't understand the wide receiver 51 price tag. Like, I get it. He's nothing special. But wide receiver 51 tells me he's bad. And he's not bad. He played last year with a back injury. Should be another easy 1,000 yards this season.
It's a very good receiver. USC, I say this to the other time, Juju Smith-Schuster notwithstanding, USC produces good receivers.
Mm-hmm.
They have consistently, over the last decade, produced a lot of good, productive receivers in the NFL. Michael Pittman is one of them. Is he going to blow you away? No. But if you put this guy on a team with a legit quarterback, I think we'd be talking about Michael Pittman in a much different light than we currently are right now. So looking at Pittman, and we're going to play the game that Daniel Jones is the starter. Because if Anthony Richardson was the starter, I already know our answer. We are avoiding Michael Pittman at all costs. That is just what this show is going to do. So we're going to play the game that Daniel Jones is the starter. And you don't love where Pittman is at 51. You think he's way too low. So what we're going to do is we're just going to climb up the ladder. We're going to see where you would stop on the ladder here. For reference, Michael Pittman is wide receiver 51, being taken with the 9th pick in the 8th round in a 12-team league. Emeka Egbuka. Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Josh Downs. We obviously know the answer there. Darnell Mooney.
I would take Mooney.
I would take Mooney as well. I want to put that out there. Brandon Ayuk.
I would take... I do have Ayuk higher because I like his standing and his offense better. But I think there's enough cloud over how soon he's going to be back from the knee injury that I would be okay taking Pittman. But also at the same time, that's probably going to be your wide receiver 5. I can just draft Ayuk and stash him at that point. But for argument's sake, I'll take Pittman.
I say, and that's who you're going to take on the clock.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs.
I would take Diggs.
And that's, yeah, I mean, you think he still has something in the tank, yes. Khalil Shakir.
I would take Shakir.
Here's where it starts to get interesting. Because as we've seen with some of these, especially the tight end rankings, we all hate like 11 through 17, and we'd rather wait and take tight end 22. So this is where it gets weird. It's like, yes, you have that little shtick right there of Mooney, Ayuk, Diggs, and Shakir, where you could say, yeah, you probably take those. Here's where I don't think you would take any of these next 4 or 5. Jaden Reed.
I do have Reed over Pittman in my rankings.
I know you like Reed, so I think that I figured that was going to be you. Matthew Golden.
I would take Pittman.
Ricky Pearsall.
I would take Pittman.
Jacoby Myers.
Pittman.
Deebo Samuel.
Pittman.
I was to say, and then Jerry
I was
Jeudy.
gonna say I do have Deebo and Myers ahead of Pittman in my rankings, but it's not by much.
But on the clock, who are you taking?
I would take Pittman.
You're going to take Pittman. Jerry Jeudy.
Because I don't think either of them really offers any more upside than the other, truthfully.
Yep. Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, come on. You know my answer to that.
I know it's
Jeudy.
Pittman. Then you're getting into Chris Olave and Chris Godwin, and I think that's kind of where yes. So as it currently sits, Pittman's being taken 2 rounds after he should be.
Mm-hmm.
So that is insane value. Your caveat is it needs to be Daniel Jones throwing him the football.
Yeah, I mean, and I just look at it like, I mean, I get the quarterback questions, right? Like, you don't want to invest in Pittman if Richardson ends up starting, maybe Daniel Jones starts, etc. But I mean, look at Chris Olave is going 2-3 rounds ahead of Michael Pittman, and he has similar quarterback questions. Like, does Spencer Rattler start? Does Tyler Shugg start? Is Tyler Shugg going to be good enough to get Chris Olave the football, right? Like, there's plenty of wide receivers that have quarterback questions, and we're fading Michael Pittman at wide receiver 51.
I think the reason comparative to Olave is,
I mean, they're very different skill sets. Don't get me wrong.
Well, not even that. Taking the player aside, you don't know what those quarterbacks are in New Orleans. They could be good. They could also suck. They could be really bad. But when you think about it, could they be as bad as Anthony Richardson as a passer? Because even we say all the time, like, who was Brock Bowers' quarterback last year? It was Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah,
not good quarterbacks. No. And Brock Bowers broke every rookie tight end record. So it doesn't matter so much how good the quarterback is in terms of real life NFL skill, is can they get them the football? Mm-hmm. And that's why we say Anthony Richardson can't get you the football, but Daniel Jones can. And that's where I think the Olave thing is, even if Shugg or Rattler or Hain or whoever plays, even if they suck, they're going to get the ball to Olave. So that, and save it with Malik Neighbors last year. Malik Neighbors, unbelievable talent.
He had 4 quarterbacks throwing him the football.
It didn't matter. Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, it did not matter who was throwing him the football. He was still Malik Neighbors. Now, if you put a good quarterback with Malik Neighbors, he'd be a lot better.
Yeah, much higher yards per reception, 100%.
Exactly. But he still had an insane year. And even for as dog shit as the season Trevor Lawrence had last year, as disappointing as it was, Brian Thomas Jr. was a top 10 receiver.
Top 6.
Yeah. And we see these things too, like a good quarterback elevates the play of a guy. Terry McLaurin with Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
We all could see what Terry McLaurin could do. He just needed a quarterback.
Yep.
And he found it. So I understand why Pittman's being faded. It feels low.
I mean, even with the back injury, he finished as wide receiver 49, and we're suddenly taking him below that this year.
At the end of the day, who do you think wins the QB battle? Who do you think Shane Steichen says, this is my guy, I'm going to go with him. I need him to be my quarterback for this season to save my job, essentially?
Daniel Jones.
I agree. I really don't think there's competition.
No. I mean, Anthony Richardson's out there releasing rap videos right now.
Yeah, he is.
That's not a good look for your QB1. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he is.
That just shows somebody that isn't prioritizing getting better. And again, like, I'm all about having hobbies, right? I'm all about, this is a hobby for us, right? Like, we all have day jobs. This is fun for us.
Well, like,
maybe
have
rap
a hobby,
is just fun for him, right?
Have a hobby and be good at your job.
Well, and that's the other side of it, right? When you're not good at your job, or when you're fighting for your job, your focus should be your job, not your hobby.
Especially in this profession.
Correct. And when you're not putting forth the effort the way that it feels like Anthony Richardson is not, that's an unserious football player. And that right there should tell Shane Steichen, fuck, we made the wrong choice.
Mm-hmm. And at the very minimum, too, it's not like Daniel Jones is a slouch running the football either.
No, he's not. Like they can still run the same offense
easily,
and they can still have a very effective running game with Daniel Jones. And quite honestly, at RB or at QB 29 price tags, Daniel Jones is a screaming value because he has 500-yard rushing upside potential
with multiple touchdowns.
I mean, if he even sniffs 20 touchdown passes, that could very easily be a top 15 season for him.
Oh, he should be a heavy target in super flex leagues as the third quarterback. Heavy target. Heavy target. He's up there for the quarterback 3 that you would arguably want as the first guy off the board. So it'll be really interesting, but I think it's Daniel Jones until he messes up.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a yo-yo act all year. I mean, it's Daniel Jones hasn't been able to hold a starting job. Anthony Richardson continually gets hurt, which means he can't hold a starting job. So it's only a matter of time, even regardless of who they anoint as the starter, the other one is going to get starts this year. Plain and simple.
Easily.
It's just going to depend on who starts the most games, because that's going to be the big determining factor in how many pass attempts this offense actually has. I only have them at 503 currently and 508 rush attempts. If Daniel Jones ends up starting the majority of the season, I think they give him a little bit longer leash when it comes to, hey, throw this football. And I think they approach like 520 pass attempts. But this is going to be an extremely low volume passing attack. And they have some pretty good pass catching options. But I don't think anyone is truly going to get hyper targeted the way that we've seen Michael Pittman get hyper targeted in the past.
Where would 520 roughly rank among the NFL in terms of pass attempts?
Let me see where they were at last year.
Like bottom 5 or 6, right?
Yeah, it would be extremely low. Yeah.
I said you said 503. I'm like, that feels high. Like it does. Like that's weird to say it feels high. So
I mean, they threw real quick. They threw.
I'm just wondering.
Last year through 513. That was with Richardson and Minshew. 2 years ago, 2023 was the wait, no.
Richardson Minshew was 23.
That's what it was. And then last year was Flacco. They threw 574 in 2023, but that was Minshew starting the vast majority of the games.
Yes. It was 513 last year. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also why they had a 62.2% completion percentage. Last year was 513.
Yeah, so you're probably right. If Daniel Jones starts the games, then you're probably sitting maybe closer to 550, 560. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, but again, I mean, look at 2021 and 2022 in Philly when Steichen was the offensive coordinator. 494 and 536 pass attempts. Like, this isn't going to be a high volume passing offense.
Yes, I just think you're going to be playing from behind, so you're okay and willing to let Daniel Jones throw the rock a little bit.
And that's fair.
That's just.
Fair. I mean, it's not like their defense is anything to shake a stick at.
No, and I'll break down the defense a little bit here as we get into the best bets. Josh, you have JT over 9.5 rushing touchdowns. That's minus money at minus 115. But the one you really talked about was Michael Pittman plus 275 to have over 1,000 yards receiving.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't quite hit 1,000 in my projections, but I mean, again, if you're a math nerd,
based on trends,
he's trending towards that based on his career trajectory. So, but again, I think a healthy Pittman comes in at 1,000 yards, and let's not pretend that 1,000 yards is some big milestone anymore. It's only like 53 yards a game.
It's not. The benchmark for a good like elite receiver in the NFL should be like 1,200, 1,250 in my opinion. I think that needs to move. And
to get any kind of plus money on that, I think is good value.
I agree with that. I would be okay putting money on that there. Myself, Josh mentioned the defense, and I always like to touch on that in these shows for my IDP lovers out there. This is a very underrated defense. They're not going to blow you away. They have a good front seven. Zaire Franklin is arguably the best middle linebacker in the NFL right now. Absolutely a stud. But then you got Kwity Paye, Grover Stewart, who nobody knows about. Grover Stewart's a fantastic defensive tackle. Same with Buckner. Laiatu Latu they got last year, who's decent. They have some pretty good pass rushers. Neville Gallimore coming over from the Rams. Their issue does lie a little bit in the secondary. Travarius Ward isn't great. He has his moments. Jalen Jones, same thing. Samuel Womack. Juju Brents. I could go on. Their secondary is very hot and cold. Kenny Moore is one of the best nickelbacks in the game. He's just getting older. Cam Bynum comes over from Minnesota. I don't think he's going to be great. I think he had the Brian Flores effect the last 2 seasons.
I was going to say new scheme. That feels very New England-esque.
Yep. I think it was the Brian Flores effect with Cam Bynum. Nick Cross was a fantastic safety last year. So if he can continue that, that's great. Whatever Zaire Franklin's tackle numbers, you take that over. He is a tackle machine. Absolute machine. He is one of the best middle linebackers in the NFL, a 7th round pick in 2018. He's one of the best middle linebackers in the NFL. And I say that with the utmost respect for Bobby Wagner. And
Wagner's
Fred
on
Warner.
the back end of his career.
You say that, and he's still like.
I mean, it still doesn't.
It's still
what I said is true. Like he's still
on
the downside of the backside of
his
his career.
Still
it doesn't
top
mean he's still
5.
not good.
He's still top 5 in tackles.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that man is. I think I said it before. That means London Fletcher. London Fletcher was putting up 180 tackles at 36. Okay, sure. In a Washington Redskins uniform, as Mr. Bobby Wagner's doing in a Commanders uniform. So I would take the over easily on Zaire Franklin's tackles. That is a lock bet, in my opinion. That's all she wrote on the Colts, folks. That really was just like the Anthony Richardson shit show, which I'm okay with. I enjoyed it. If there's one thing as a show in our entire history that we can all take a Daytona 500 victory lap on, is calling bullshit on Anthony Richardson's value last year.
Yeah.
I mean,
we definitely knocked that out of the park. If people listen to us, they faded him so hard.
None of us even had him on the radar to be drafted, even if he was like QB 19. If he was, even then we're like, he can't throw. Like there's just no upside. He can't throw. So that's the biggest victory lap. So we'll take the Anthony Richardson shitstorm anytime we can, because that is the cog that is really ruining this team. So hopefully we'll see what Daniel Jones can bring to the table this season. Next episode. Oh, baby, we're still not getting better. We're heading to Atlanta.
Hawkins will be interesting.
Definitely.
That's another one that everything is very targeted. Like it's very funneled into where those pieces are. So
definitely very good fantasy assets that we all enjoy, minus Kyle Pitts. There's definitely some good fantasy assets and another horrible defense that has been the worst in terms of getting to the quarterback the last, I think, like 3 seasons. They are dead last in the NFL and getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, they paid a heavy price to add some sack artists in the draft.
And they're not even going to be that good, I think. Yeah. So we'll see, but it's going to be an interesting team. Atlanta Falcons going to come up next. I will not be here for that one. That is going to be Josh and Ryan plus TBD potentially, our favorite guest. Can't wait to have TBD back during the season. Can't wait for it. But that's going to be the Falcons. And that puts us almost halfway through our Look Inside series so far. That'll put us at episode 15. One more after that, we'll officially hit the halfway mark. So for the Colts, for Josh, myself, Ryan, you can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL, clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. We will see you on the next.